Hello and welcome to Blindspotting on Starside Cafe. I'm Zach, and joining me is Aaron.
Hello.
Hey, have you played Dragon Ball FighterZ?
Zach, I have never played a Dragon Ball Z game, but I have always wanted one, such that I have a story to tell. I think it was, I don't know when, it was when I was very young, and my grandma was like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I was like, "I want this game." But what I didn't know, I didn't understand about computers. And what I was telling her I wanted was actually a Half-Life 2 mod about where they just modded in Goku, and I thought it was a real game. And so I was like, I want this. And it just so happened that like there was a Civ game or like some kind of weird city building game that had that exact subtitle. So she got me that. She was like, "I got you what you wanted." And I opened it up, and it was not Dragon Ball Z at all. It was like some game where you had to like start out in feudal Japan and like build up your villages. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Grandma." And then I returned it.
That sounds like something that happened to me too when I was a kid. I was like, I want this Mario game, and they like brought me, it was something like Dr. Mario. It was not an actual Mario game or whatever. Anyway, this is Dragon Ball FighterZ. It came out in January of last year, and my memory's a little not great on it because it has been almost a year since I last played it. But I'm starting. I think it's sort of a new game plus type of a thing, which is why my characters are like level 36 and 40, and the characters I'm going up against are like level 20. So I'm like destroying them, but. When you're actually playing through the story mode, you will not destroy them quite this quickly.
Is this the story mode, what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, this is, I think, the last stage of the Super Warrior arc. So there are 3 arcs. And so you see this little map that you can kind of navigate around, and you have so many turns to get to the final boss of each stage. And as you go, you'll sort of unlock more characters. It's kind of similar to like World of Light in Super Smash Brothers, where you're playing against these like shadows of other characters from the world of Dragon Ball. And as you unlock them, they can like join your team, and you can have up to 3 at any one time. And as you use them, their level increases. So like... you have to make sure that when you go fight, like if I was fighting this clone guy at level 20, I would want to probably go at him with guys that are around that level as well. I wouldn't want to take somebody that I just unlocked and they're at like level 6 or whatever.
How easy is it to remember the combos? Like, the thing I like about Smash Brothers is that everyone's moves are the same. Is it like that with this?
It is very similar. So I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that attracted me to this was when I heard that the move sets are pretty simple. It's pretty much the closest thing to Smash Brothers in terms of like accessibility, as far as like learning the move sets. Now it looks like super fast and like you're doing all this crazy stuff, but a lot of it is like auto combos sort of. So like if I hit the like light melee attack or whatever, if I like chain some of those in a row, he'll start doing this like crazy attack, basically. So it is kind of like it's automated, which makes it sound like it's not, it doesn't require a lot of skill, but like it still does, because you still have to know like when to use them, when to block, and there has been like this intense like competitive scene that has arisen around this game over the course of last year. So it is like one of those games that's sort of easy to learn but difficult to master, which is, I think, exactly where you want it to be.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And yeah, it is. If you've ever played Street Fighter, I think the like toughest thing that you'll have to learn to do is that like half stick rotation. And then like I think it's when you're Ryu and you're like throwing his Hadouken, it's kind of like if you can pull that off, you can do all the moves in this game basically.
I learned how to do that from Guilty Gear X2 or whatever one was on PS2.
Yeah. It's, I guess, a pretty common thing in fighters, but like that's about as complicated as it gets. So as long as you can do that, then you're good. Like you'll be right at home here. And
so what we're watching right now is a big question I had, because a lot of the characters, not just the Saiyans, like I assume Cell and Frieza as well, have different forms. How does that factor into the gameplay? Like Super Saiyan 2 and 3 and 4.
They're sort of tied to the movesets. Like the move I just did as Goku is like one of his super moves, and there's like a little bar that you'll see on the lower part of the screen that as you build that up, you get like access to like higher tiers of special moves, I guess.
That makes sense to me, yeah.
And like there are different animations tied to them, and so when he goes like Super Saiyan 3 or whatever, that's just like one of his super combos or whatever. You don't have to actually press a button to activate like a higher power level or whatever.
Interesting. So you can't stay Super Saiyan 3, it's only for that move?
Right. Although there's another sort of character model that you can play as for Goku. Like there's the what is it, Super Saiyan Blue, and then I think there's even like Super Saiyan Black or whatever it is. I forget what all of them are called, but if you've watched Dragon Ball Super, you'll kind of know what there is. And
this looks really fun.
It is actually really fun, and I like so much that the art style is basically a direct analog to the actual show. Like it's not like a lot of games where it just becomes this weird like 3D thing that doesn't really resemble the anime very well. Like this looks exactly like it, and later you'll see some cutscenes and it does look like it's just straight out of the show.
It does. So it seems like you always have 3 characters. Is that just for the story mode?
You'll always have 3 characters, and the left trigger and left bumper, or L1, is sort of how you switch back and forth between them. So you can kind of switch back and forth between them on the fly, and you can use them to like, even if you just tap it, they'll pop in and do like an attack and then go back out again.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's got some pretty cool stuff to it. The 3 arcs are like the Super Warrior arc, the Enemy Warrior arc, and the Android 21 arc. And I don't remember them super well, but obviously you can kind of figure out what they're sort of about just based on the names. So like the Super Warrior arc, you're just playing as like the good guys. And with the Enemy Warrior arc, you take the good guys and you go like meet up with all the bad guys and like across the entire franchise, like the history of it basically, and they kind of join your team. And I think the concept behind this is just one of those very video gamey things where they make it so that everybody like there's some weird thing going on where everyone is sort of a little bit robbed of their power. But
yeah, I was gonna say, because like Krillin is holding his own, which should not happen.
Yeah, so they come up with this like story reason as for why everyone is about at the same level. And so that evens it out, and then yeah, you can play as all the characters and they can all hold their own against every other character.
What systems is this on?
It's on everything, I think.
Switch even? It's on Switch?
It is on Switch. It got a Switch release like partway through last year.
That is intensely interesting to me.
Right? So yeah, I got this on PC back in January when it launched, like on the same weekend as Monster Hunter World. But it did come out on PS4 and Xbox, and then later it got a Switch release, and I really debated getting it again because I enjoyed it so much. The story, it's like a good like 20-hour story too, so it's not like if you do spend the money on it, you're going to get your money's worth out of it. So I liked it a lot, and like I like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I think this was my favorite fighting game of 2018.
So yeah, like I believe I have played a Dragon Ball Z game a long time ago, very briefly. And what turned me off of it was like a lot of fighting games where you would have to go in, like you'd start playing with your friend and you'd be like, all right, pause, I have to look at all my moves. But if it is like Smash Brothers, where it's very intuitive, that's the number one thing that's selling this to me right now, is that I can pick it up and know the basics of every character and then pick my character based on their moves instead of how easy it is to perform the moves.
Then good news, you're going to like this game, because it is like all the characters do basically have the same moveset. They do different things, obviously, but like as long as you sort of understand the basics of like a half circle and this button does this attack, this is a heavy attack, this is a light attack, then you're good. Like you can basically play as all the characters. It's just like from there it's sort of knowing when to use which of the combos that they can do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. How is the roster?
It's pretty full. I know they've added some characters since I last played. I don't know who all they've added because it's been quite a while, and I don't think I got any of the DLC either. So, but
so it's paid.
I am not sure off the top of my head. I don't want to say the wrong thing. It probably is. I would imagine that's the way most of it is. But yeah, they've added at least a couple of characters since it came out. But it's a good sized roster to begin with as well. And just like playing through the story and unlocking more of the characters as you go and like leveling them up and like learning which ones are your favorites to play with. That's all very addicting to me because it is also semi like RPG, and the fact that you're, leveling them up, and as you're fighting, if they take damage, it takes them sort of time to recover, so you're not necessarily just going to play as the same 3 characters the entire way through.
Interesting.
So you may want to like sit one of them out for a few fights and bring in somebody else, and then that'll give you a chance to kind of learn their moveset as well.
Man, a Dragon Ball Z with RPG elements is like that's what I thought I was asking for from my grandma, is like a third-person Dragon Ball Z game where you're like just running around beating people up, kamehamehaing people, but it's like GTA style kind of. Like, wouldn't that be crazy?
Well, I think that's closer to like Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Have you seen those games?
No.
So Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 and 2 are a little bit like that, where you can even like create your own fighter. And I think they're kind of RPGs. I've not played them, but they looked very interesting to me. The thing that turns me off about those is they're one of those fighters that's sort of like free-form, almost 3D space.
That would be that's the thing, I guess, is like the ability that everyone has to fly would make this very hard to control. Yeah,
I think it's like the control schemes of those games seemed a little bit more complicated than this to me. Like, I haven't played them, but just that was my impression watching them. Like, because you can take the fight into the air and it'll just stay this like airborne battle, and
it becomes like ship combat. Which
it becomes this. Yeah, and you can fly around for sure. So like you're kind of flying between fighters or whatever, and that kind of turned me off of it. Like the concept of it as just this like semi-open world Dragon Ball game where you can create your own fighter and like style them like your favorite Dragon Ball Z character or whatever. That was all very interesting to me, but the fighting, the actual like fighting in the game for Dragon Ball FighterZ is way more appealing to me than anything in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. So I would recommend this game over that one, even though I guess I'm not a great person to give a recommendation since I haven't played that one, but like this game is great.
So it's probably pretty cheap now, right? Since it came out a year ago?
I don't know if it's gone on sale or not. That's actually a good question. I would definitely look into the Switch version of it for sure. And definitely the idea of like being able to play it on the go is one of the reasons why I wanted to pick it up again. Like, I'm sure like I wouldn't necessarily love the Joy-Cons to play it with, but like just the fact that I could take it with me and still play it seems pretty great.
Zach, I did some light Googling. The Steam sale is happening right now, and actually it's Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball FighterZ is 60% off right now on Steam. It's $23.99.
Oh, that's a great deal.
Yeah, I might actually pick this up.
You should definitely pick it up. I don't know if you want to spend extra just to get it on Switch, but one way or another, you should definitely play this game because I think you would actually like it quite a bit.
I really need to start watching Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons why I was playing this game a lot in January is because I was watching Dragon Ball Super at the time. So I was like, oh, I need to play this game. And, but yeah, it's great. And you should definitely get it and then let me know how you like it.
All right, TBD.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave us a comment and give us a like. And
smash that like button.
Smash it with one of your Super Saiyan powers.
Yeah.
And then we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.